guys, good morning, welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. How are we all doing? It is Thursday, KG's favourite day of the week, Thursday, and there's plenty to get into, so be sure to smash a like on the like button, be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right hand corner, another day of going on, happenings as they would. Things are happening in the transfer market, certainly. We said, didn't we, as the window goes on, as we get closer and closer to the deadline, what's it, 8 days away? Stuff would start to happen, certainly, and it looks like Manuel Ugarte, the deal is getting closer. This is a quite interesting one, isn't it, because it feels like it's been getting closer and closer and closer over the last sort of 7 days or so, but certainly yesterday, big development. Well, we'll talk about whether it was a big development or not, whether it was just engagement, you know what I mean, engagement for the sake of engagement. We'll chat about that. We're also going to be talking about a really weird story coming out of Italy yesterday, suggesting that Manchester United have put a bid in for Ederson for Atalanta, which kind of seems a bit of a left hand turn. That one, doesn't it? Oh, where'd that come from? That kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? We'll also chat about how. Now, I'm not sure if people have put two and two together when it comes to this one, but the Scott McTominay Napoli thing, that may have maybe hit a bit of a snag as well. So we chat about that. The latest when it comes to Jadon Sancho to PSG. Facundo, KG can no longer say his name. Remember there was a period of time where KG was a big fan of Facundo Pellistri because he liked to say the word Facundo, the name Facundo. But he won't be saying it any longer. Facundo Pellistri has left Manchester United. So we'll be chatting about that too. So there's plenty to get into this morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right hand corner. I can see everyone in the chat. I can see Starlord in there. Starlord says, top of the morning, everyone. I'm listening in, but the boss is about, so I'm on the sly. Starlord's on the sly this morning. Joe Blackman's in the chat as well. Big up to you. Nessie says, happy Thursday, UV family. Javed says, if Ugarte goes off today. Fish says, things are happening. Yes, I need my own bell, like that guy, you know. Oh, you know what? If I could get a bell on here, let's test the soundboard. The controversial soundboard, by the way. I mean, it sounds more like a funeral, doesn't it? You know what I mean? What about this one? Things are happening. 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 Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to do something like that, yeah? Maybe. I mean, he's got a real one. He's got a real one. It's not so much of a signing, more of, you know, someone's died. But you get my point. That's what he's... That's what he said. So yes, there's plenty to get into. So be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. As you can see, top right hand corner. Yesterday we hit 175,000 subscribers. So big up to everyone that got us over the milestone yesterday. Big up to everyone. If you're a new subscriber, you're an old one, you've been with UV since the beginning, or you've been with UV for a couple of years, or you've been with UV for 5 minutes. Big up to everyone. Road to 200k is certainly on indeed. Right, you've come here for transfer news. You've come here for transfer happenings. Things are happening. Again. It does sound like the Undertaker's going to come out, doesn't it? Let's talk about Manuel Ugarte. Let's talk about some developments when they come with that. This was really strange, to be honest with you, yesterday, because like stuff started to sort of rumble on social media, and it felt like we were set for this really big update regarding Ugarte, and then it kind of like didn't happen for a period. It's very strange. So let's talk about it. So Fabrizio Romano said Manuel Ugarte has been the priority for Manchester United as a midfielder, despite rumours in recent weeks about United leaving talks to focus on different targets. Ugarte has always been waiting for the Manchester United move. Negotiations continue between the clubs. Ugarte has no doubts, and really that's kind of a wish-washy update from Romano, and it must be stressed, this came after a lot of the other sort of updates surrounding the status of this deal. The one that really got a lot of people talking was from Le Parisien in France, obviously. And the suggestion from them was that Manchester United and PSG are close to an agreement for Manuel Ugarte, around £51 million. Although details remain to be settled, to finalise the operation, the parties are confident of securing the deal in the coming days. And this was also kind of echoed a bit from Florian Plettenberg, who said advanced negotiations are now on for Manuel Ugarte. He understands that Manchester United and PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, are getting closer, either a permanent deal or a loan with an obligation to buy. More details to be clarified, not a done deal yet, but all parties involved to get the deal done. Verbal agreement is done and sealed. Of course, that verbal agreement's been there for quite some time. So this was, as I mentioned, it was a curious one yesterday. And if you're like me, you're scrolling through the timeline and you're waiting to see these kind of updates and you're hoping to see these kind of updates. I don't know if you've noticed this, and you can indulge me on my theory here when it comes to this kind of sort of transfer sort of speculation. It's all a big guessing game, isn't it? It's all a big guessing game, and it's all a desire to be first. It's all a desire to be, I was the one that broke that story. I was the one that got that one right. I was the one that said that this was going to happen, and then it happened, right? That's kind of what it is. And yesterday, I think, was a great example of it. As I mentioned, a report came out from the Le Parisien sort of saying that this deal was close and they were getting closer, £51 million, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, in the space of about 5 minutes, you saw all of those sort of different updates that were kind of really the same updates that what they had said previously. I mean, look, if you go back to Romano's one, I mean, look at it. The Romano one is nuts. There you go. He's always been a priority for United as a midfielder. Their talks are still on, and negotiations continue between the club. There's no doubts. I mean, that's really nothing, isn't it? It's really nothing. So whether or not that report from Le Parisien is totally accurate, I think the sort of general thing you could say about all of this is that a deal is getting much closer, isn't it? And that's been the case of, really, I mean, over the last sort of 7 days or so? Over the last 7 days, certainly, there has sort of felt like, definitely, that things are getting closer. Things are sort of heading into the right direction for this one. I think that, I did see, I think it was the Muppeteers said yesterday that, United had gone sort of up in their bid. There is an expectation once again that PSG will come down in their bid too, which has always been the case for United, because I think United want to make sure that they get what they deem to be value for money in this deal, and PSG for some reason think that they can get pretty much what they paid for Ugarte a year ago, even though he's been a PSG player for a year, and also it's been widely put out there that Luis Enrique, the head coach, doesn't want him. And when that happens, how can you then say, we're going to get exactly what we paid for him? It's not going to happen, is it? So hence the sort of delay or gap in valuation, and also United being in the position where they need to sell to buy and they need to get people out of the door. The McTominay one we'll chat about in a bit, whether or not that's going to happen or not going to happen. It feels like it's a bit like the Jadon Sancho thing, isn't it? Is every other day you go back and forth about whether he's going to leave or he's not going to leave. Definitely not going to go to Fulham. Is he going to go to Napoli? That might change with the news that's sort of been reported by other people. And and then it's a case of whether it's going to be a permanent deal or a loan deal. I mean, all of that reporting there would suggest, wouldn't it, that it would be a permanent deal, which would be really interesting because it would make you wonder where United did get the money from with that. I had always assumed that if this was going to be a permanent deal for Ugarte, that would be reliant on McTominay or Sancho or like sort of a big outgoing, because it's still a big fee. I mean, around sort of £50 million, a lot of money. Manchester United have already spent big this summer, so we've got to find an outgoing somewhere. So I was a bit like, when I saw that reporting that, £50 million going in and that's what it's going to be, I was a bit like, wow, where did they find the money for that one? But I also thought that with Matthijs de Ligt, right? I thought the same with that one because I thought, well, it's definitely going to have to be Lindelof goes or McTominay goes for that. They still managed to pull it off. I mean, they had Wan-Bissaka go. That kind of facilitated Mazraoui. So once again, we then get into the territory of how much money do United actually have? Because remember the reporting of United only have, was it £35 million net to spend this summer? Well, that was clearly wrong. And it's always wrong when it comes to sort of the budget that Manchester United are dealing with in a summer transfer window. For the last, I feel like 3 or 4 years, it's been, they've only got a very, very small amount of money to sort of play around with. And we know that it's tight from a PSR perspective. We know that it's tight from an FFP perspective. But once again, we're like, well, we actually don't know. We actually don't know how much it is that Manchester United have to spend. So maybe with the Facundo Pellistri exit, it's not a lot, but maybe that's just what United needs, just to get them to where they're going with it. And as I've said multiple times in this transfer window, anything is possible. And I do sit here this morning on Thursday, the 22nd of August, with a significant amount of confidence. At this stage, I would be very surprised if the transfer window shut and Manuel Ugarte wasn't a Manchester United player. That's what it feels like at this point, doesn't it? It feels like, once again, a bit like with the De Ligt and the Mazraoui deals, where you go, it feels like this one is going to happen. It just might not happen, today, tomorrow. But before the end of the window, feels like this one's going to happen, doesn't it? United seem pretty insistent on getting him, and again, you look at the other deals as a bit of a comparison to this. United kind of never really walk away, do they? They've got other targets that they can pivot to, but if they believe that it's still possible to get this player, or they believe that it's just going to take a bit of extra negotiation and some of these other clubs are just playing a bit of hardball, but we'll get there eventually, a bit like with Bayern. They're just being a bit fussy on the price, but we'll get there. We're not going to overpay, but we'll get there. We'll get the player eventually. It kind of feels the same like it is here with PSG. With PSG make their signing in midfield, United think, right, they'll want to get rid of Ugarte now, and then PSG go, yep, we want exactly close to what we paid for him this time last year. Man United go, no, all right, we'll back off. We'll look at other targets and just assess them because we've already got them. But we'll have a look. We'll have a look at those other targets. Meanwhile, in the back of their mind, they're like, we're still going to get Ugarte. That is going to happen. It's just, he said they'll eventually drop their asking price. The window will get closer. The player will push for the move. And actually, if you do look at the reporting, and if some of the reporting is accurate, the strategy here might be really, really smart, which is United sort of back away initially from those real sort of direct talks with PSG, and they just kind of work more with the player side, with the agent side going, gotta force it. Go to George Mendes, hey, broker something. They're asking for too much money. You've got to figure something out. Your client wants to move. We want the move. We're happy to facilitate the move, but you gotta help us out here. You gotta do your job. You're an agent. You're a broker. Broker a move. Do something. And that's what it's kind of been, isn't it? And then that's why over the last few weeks, you've heard more and more of these reports of there's growing confidence, there's growing optimism. As Florian Plettenberg is saying right there, it's advanced talks, it's advanced negotiations. All the options are on the table, right? Whether it's a permanent deal or a loan with an obligation to buy, an option to buy, all of the options are on the table. And it does feel like, as I said, to circle back to it, that he's gonna sign for Manchester United. It's just a case of, is he going to be permanent? Is he going to be temporary? How quickly are PSG just going to want to do this business? Are they going to want to sort of drag it till the end of the window? Is it going to be a deadline day thing? What's it going to be? In an ideal scenario, he's not going to be available for Brighton at the weekend. You'd have to be registered. Is it Friday? Is it Thursday or Friday? Was it Thursday because we played on the Friday last week? Probably on the Friday, but it's not going to happen. You never know. The week after that, Liverpool. Might be. This is the thing with these ones, isn't it? It feels like with that Liverpool game, you go, it's too soon. But is it? Is it? Because this is also the thing that we've seen in this transfer window, is that stuff can happen really fast. And it's such an oxymoron, isn't it? It's such an oxymoron because we sit here and we do shows like this and we're on social media or we tune into the TV shows, and it feels like it's sort of a drip, drip, drip. Every day you hear talks are ongoing, United are in talks, or United are interested in this person, and it feels like, because you're experiencing it in real time, you go, man, this feels like this is happening really slow. This feels like this is happening sort of really, really slow. Why is this not happening fast? But then once the sort of agreement is done, or once a domino does fall, a bit like the De Ligt and Mazraoui one, boom, suddenly they're like, oh, it's done. It's done. You get a here we go, or you get an Ornstein siren. You go, boom, that's done. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, they're going to be ready for the start of the season. They're going to be ready in a couple of days. Like, it can happen that quickly. So, yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Transfers are weird like that, as they can drag out, and then they suddenly just happen super, super fast. So I still have, like I said, a lot of confidence that this one will happen. What the sort of finer details are, whether United is a permanent one or a loan, we shall see, indeed. We've got over 1,500 people watching. We're already at 370 likes. See if we can get it to 500. That would be fantastic. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner, you know what to do. As Joe Blackman says in the chat right there, over 1.5k through the door. If you haven't already, click the like button. What else are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Of course, you can get your super chats and your member chats in as well. Bison says, just tired of this now. If Ugarte is the talent we truly believe he is, surely £50 million is a very good deal. Well, that's the point, isn't it? Is that Manchester United think he's a good talent, but PSG want to get more money. You know, it's not. I don't think it's a Man United hang-up about it. But also, and this is where we have to be careful as Manchester United fans, and this is why I'm glad that Ineos don't do this, because there have been a couple of points in this transfer window where we as fans have been like, you know, oh, just get on with it, or just, you know, pay the money or accept a low offer, just get it done. And they've gone, no, we're not doing that. We're getting the right value for money, and they've been right to do that. And that's why we're not in those positions, isn't it? That's why we're not in those positions, because just paying the money is what's got us into a really shitty financial situation in the past, because we just pay the money, overpay the money for players that aren't valued for it. We then just pay the money on stupid contracts, and then in a couple of years' time, when we want to sell them, when we don't work out, we go, why can't we sell them? Oh, what a loss we've made on these players. It's very difficult to get rid of these players that we put these big contracts on. It's a patience game. And that's the thing. Sometimes with fans, we're just not patient, are we? We are not patient at all. But just paying the money is what we've done in the past. And I would really genuinely say, if you're an advocate for just paying the money, look at some of the players that we've done that for. I mean, you know, Anthony, granted we could have got him for much less earlier on in the window, but when it came to the end of the window, we just paid the money, which was like 100 million euros. Harry Maguire, 80 million pounds. Just pay the money, right? Let's just pay it. Why not? Let's just pay the money. It doesn't always work like that. Or even whether it's Alexis Sanchez, wasn't a lot of money. Just give him the contract he wants. It's fine. It was on a lot. it was on a lot. So it's always, as much as it can be tedious, if we look at the De Ligt and Mazraoui, we signed Mazraoui for like £15 million or whatever, or close. It was a total package of 20. Matthijs De Ligt for under 40 million quid in 2024. That's how you negotiate transfers. You know, it's not just paying the money, because and we don't want to make the same mistakes that we've done in the past. Definitely not. Right, so let's move on. Let's talk about this Ederson one. This is quite a strange story. This coming from in Italy, Alfredo Padula is saying that Atalanta have rejected a £42 million offer from Manchester United for Ederson. So that's around 50 million euros. This one again kind of came a little bit out of left field. Not totally. I mean, I don't know whether I buy it. I find that very, very strange. I mean, I mentioned a minute ago, where have Manchester United got the money from? Because if they're allegedly going, right, £50 million possibly for Ugarte. Oh, by the way, we're going to also Ederson, £50 million or £42 million. I'm like, what? Where did that happen? Now, there had been I think it was from Alfredo Padula in the last few days, suggesting that Manchester United and Atalanta were in talks, but that was related to some of sort of the financial stuff regarding Rasmus Højlund's transfer last season. And during that time, United had asked about Ederson, and now that's led to a bid. But I just really, look, the thing is, what's interesting with this story is Alfredo Padula last season was really, really accurate on the Rasmus Højlund deal. So you could look at that and go, well, that would suggest maybe then he does have sort of quite close sources or ties to Atalanta. Therefore, maybe there's an element of truth in it. But then when you do take a step back, you go, but that just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense with the transfers that we're trying to do. It doesn't make any sense with the money that we've got. And it's been widely reported by very, very credible outlets that Ugarte, he's the number one target for United's midfield. That's who they're going after. We just spoke about price and available funds and what have you, and hoping to move certain players on to make things happen. So why suddenly Manchester United would just be like, right, put a bid in for Ederson? That would suggest to me that they either aborted the Ugarte deal, which we know that they haven't, or there's an extra large amount of money laying around that we previously weren't that aware of. So I, as KG would say, a lot of the bombastic side eye goes to this one where I go, really? Or maybe you get into the territory of sort of, define bid, define bid. Was it an official written down on paper? Was it a verbal bid? Or was it one of those ones where, there's elements of truth in that story? Because that's always the case with a lot of stories like this, where there's elements of truth in it and another parts get embellished. Could there have been a situation where, there were sort of some meetings with Atalanta officials to kind of just iron out some things with the Højlund deal from last year, or financial stuff from the Højlund deal last year? When they were chatting, Ederson's name gets brought up. If he were to go, what price would you be looking for? Something like that. Well, if we were, we'd probably pay like, 45 million pounds. Well, we wouldn't sell him for that. That turns into a bid's been rejected. I don't know. So I really doubt this story, in all honesty. Could be massively wrong, as I've said just a few minutes ago. Who genuinely knows? Who genuinely knows what Manchester United's sort of actual budget is this summer? Maybe it's far bigger than we expected. Maybe it was a 50 million euro bid where not a lot of it was up front. Very little, very, very little was up front, and it was like £5 million up front, and the rest is staggered over a longer period of time. And maybe they thought, well, we could technically pull it off if we structured it a certain way. But I'm not sure. I mean, could you imagine if Man United pulled that off just before the end of the window? They signed Ugarte and Ederson. You'd be like, holy shit. We said that we need two midfielders. You'd be like, wow, that is mad. And as I've said, anything is possible. Anything is possible. But this one, I would be surprised about. I would be. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. You never know. Maybe that is an indication that they think that certain exits are more likely. Right? We're going to talk about McTominay and Sancho in a minute. What if they both go? If they both go, maybe there is enough money. Maybe United are banking on that they're both going to go, and when they both go, We'll get both of them. That's what we're going to do. Maybe it's purely a situation of Manchester United officials sort of putting a story out there to some Italian journalists, gets around, and suddenly PSG are like, oh, they've moved on to other targets. A bit like with the Sander Berg thing. Oh, they've moved on. They're moving on. They're going over to other targets. Maybe we do need to reduce our asking price. There's a lot of possibilities when it comes to this story, but I feel like the one that's least likely is that it actually happened, which is kind of wild, isn't it? But I don't really see that happening right now. But we shall see. Anything's certainly possible. We're 7 likes, by the way, 7 likes away from 500. So if you haven't already, click the like button and be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. Just a reminder as well, I think from what my checking last night, it looks like the new slot for the press conference for Erik ten Hag this season is like 4:45, which is quite late, isn't it? And we are going to have the full view once again, 6 p.m. this evening. So we'll cover the stuff that happens in the press conference in the full view. There's also going to be a match preview coming up at midday with Flex and myself previewing the trip to the Amex, Brighton and Hove Albion versus Manchester United. That's going to be coming out at midday. So be sure to check that all out too. And it's, you know what, it's so wild, isn't it? Premier League football's back. And you get all excited for the first weekend. First weekend comes and goes. And next thing you know, now it's Thursday. Another Premier League weekends on the horizon. Isn't it great? Football's back. And then soon, European football's going to be joining in as well. And that's when you got your full week. You got your full week of football, isn't it? Every day, turn it on. Even if, I don't know about you, but when United aren't in the Champions League, I find the Champions League really dull and boring. I can't even, you don't really care, do you? Suddenly, the Europa League does become somewhat exciting. You're like, oh, this is good. But the Champions League, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are a bit of a drag, aren't they? But still, you have them on for background noise or what have you. And it's going to be interesting this year to look at the new formats. It's going to take a little while to get used to as well, isn't it? But yeah, another Premier League weekend. European football on the horizon soon. Very exciting. And also, I was thinking about this the other day. So, as you would be aware here on UV, whenever it's a new season, European competition, we always do the draws of the groups. And I think this year, instead of like the groups being drawn, it's just the fixtures, isn't it? It's just the fixtures basically get drawn, right? It's just like you just see who you're going to play as opposed to the actual group that you're going to be in. You just see, was it 8 games, 7 games that you play, something like that. That's it. You go, oh, we're going to play these teams. And so interested to go on to onto that ride. But that's going to be happening and beginning of next month, I think it is. That's a while away. But the point being is, another Premier League season. There's going to be a preview for the game at midday, plus the full view coming out later on. What else are people saying here in the chat? Show says easier to watch the Champions League without us in it, less stress. Yeah, I get your point, but also this is very par for the course for us, even when we have been in the Champions League for a long time actually. But when you get to quarterfinals, semi-finals, and they just feel big, don't they? Go, oh, this is big, big atmosphere, big match. And you just go, oh, I wish United was in stuff like this. You know what I mean? But you do raise a good point, because even when we've got there, let's say, was it quarterfinal against? When was the last time we got quarters? Last time we got, latter stages, shall we say? Remember we played Atletico and we got knocked out. You just sort of felt like, oh, Man United, they ain't going to get through. they're not going to get. That's not going to happen. Man United aren't going to get through that. Or when we were playing like Barcelona a couple of years under Oli in the Champions League, we're not going to get through. But still, it's exciting to have European football back. Big up Mida also in the chat. Be sure to subscribe to her channel. I'm sure someone will put it in at the moment. So there's nearly 1,700 of you watching. So if you haven't already, go and subscribe to her. I'm not sure what the road to the number that she's on, but you can go follow her. She's doing daily streams on her channel too. So big up to her. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Scott McTominay. This is this may put a bit of sort of jeopardy into the Scott McTominay to Napoli move. So Fabrizio Romano has suggested here that Napoli are close to completing a deal for Billy Gilmour, as it's all set on both the club and player side. Brighton are already looking at replacements for Gilmour. Matt O'Reilly, they're going to finalise an agreement with Celtic soon. Gilmour is waiting for the final green light. And you might say, oh, what's that got to do? What's that got to do with Scott McTominay? Well, Billy Gilmour was, I guess, the original target, it felt like, for Napoli, wasn't it? Way earlier in this transfer window. It had been reported that Napoli were after Billy Gilmour and couldn't figure out an agreement. Wasn't going to happen. Moved on to other targets seemingly, but It's also been reported that, the Romelu Lukaku deal is getting closer and closer and closer. And if they've got Billy Gilmour, they've got their Scottish midfielder that they're looking for, and it's not McTominay, it would raise the question, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with Scott McTominay? Because Fulham hasn't happened. Napoli, until someone says it's not happening, you can't kind of say it's definitely off. But they're in the market for a midfielder. They're signing a midfielder. Would kind of suggest that's their business done with that. And we also know that the clubs in Serie A don't have a huge amount of money. So if they've got their people through the door, would maybe suggest once again that McTominay is going to stay, unless something dramatically happens. Something dramatically happens where it's a big turnaround. But suddenly, in the space of a few days, feels like this McTominay one's kind of sort of turned on its head, isn't it? But we must also be stressed that there were other reports suggesting that it wasn't just Fulham, it wasn't just Napoli that was interested in McTominay, but all of the other reports in Italy suggest that McTominay had turned down these other clubs to go to Napoli. So I guess what kind of happened there. So it does feel like, look, the possibility of Scott McTominay staying is a very, very real one. And interestingly, it already looks like, maybe this is the biggest sort of indicator that McTominay might stay, is that it feels like Manchester United are already have already found other ways to try and do this Ugarte deal, kind of irrespective of the McTominay situation, right? Because it feels less and less like, this deal is dependent. This deal is totally dependent on Scott McTominay leaving. McTominay has to leave for this one to happen. Remember a few weeks ago with Romano and all those other guys saying it hinges on Scott McTominay. McTominay leaving. If McTominay doesn't leave, Ugarte's not happening. Well, that narrative's kind of changed, doesn't it? That narrative is sort of pivoted. That narrative has moved to this Ugarte one's going to happen. This Ugarte one's going to happen. It could be a loan, could be permanent, but talks are advanced, players pushing for it, agents pushing for it. They're a bit apart on the fee, but they'll get there, blah, blah, blah. That kind of McTominay element of it is kind of past. And I don't expect United to do similarly, we see like teams like Chelsea are doing at the moment, where they're basically going around to all of these players and going, you're not going to be in the Premier League squad, you're not going to be in the Premier League squad, you're not going to be in the Premier League squad, you're not going to be in the Premier League squad. Oprah Winfrey settings, but in reverse. You're not going to be playing, so find somewhere, basically. And I think it's already been established, hasn't it, that United aren't going to do that. Certainly, the narrative that United want to put out there, if you watch any of the news channels, which will mean that this has come straight from the club, is we're not going to force him out, and it's only if it's going to be the fee that we're happy with, and it's only going to be if he says that he wants to leave, that's what it's going to be. So unless that happens, we're happy for him to stay. But at the same time, it's a bit of lip service, because he's got a year left in his contract. He's got the option to trigger for the extra year, which if he doesn't go, United will trigger that. But if United really were desperate to keep him or whatever, they'd get into contract talks. They'll get into contract negotiations with him and extend his deal, which I don't think they'll do. So whether or not he leaves in this window, might be in January, might be next summer. If it's next summer, you probably ain't going to get that sort of £25 million that you're looking for, because you don't have the security of having that extra trigger option, do you? But look, it might be in January, and this is something that we've got. I don't know about you, but as United fans, because we just haven't done really any significant business in January for ages. I know we've done a few loans here and there, Weghorst, Sabitzer, but nothing proper, nothing really significant. We haven't done that in ages. We just kind of forget it. We just kind of don't even consider it, do we? We just go, it's all going to happen in the summer. That's what's going to happen. There could be a very real situation where McTominay doesn't get the move in this window, and then come January, because he hasn't played that much, someone puts a bid in, and then United do some business in January. I think that you look at the market as well. seeing people like Oliver Skipp go for 25 million, I think United are right to go, well, we think McTominay's better. I know he's a bit older, and I know he's got, maybe less time in his contract, but in terms of value for money, you get more value for money when it comes to him in terms of experience and goals. And goals are a premium in the Premier League too. So, I still don't think McTominay stays for the long term or anything like that if he doesn't leave this summer. I still think that he ends up leaving eventually. As it's the same with a lot of these players. This was something that we've discussed quite a lot, isn't it? Is that we do have to kind of manage expectations a little bit with certain players. I know there are players that are lightning rods and they need to go. They're the problem. They need to go. He needs to go. Blah blah blah. But at the same time, United still do have to get the right price. United still do have to get a price that's best for business, as it were, to steal a WWE phrase. That's what they need to do. And McTominay is no different. I know. How old's McTominay at this point? Is he 20, 27, 28? Which I know nowadays in football means you're ancient. He's 27. He'll be 28 in December. 27 years old. You're in your prime. As a midfielder, you're in your prime years. And with a year plus one, let's call it 2 years, on your contract, and he's a homegrown player, so the money that you get from it is pure profit. United are right to go 25 million. Played over 200 odd times for United. Scored goals in the Premier League, And then people like then to make comparisons between him and other players where they're not the same. But United are right to be like, we're not going to give you... We're not just going to let him go for nothing just because we're desperate. Just because we're like, oh, well, we want the money to help us with the Ugarte deal. Again, we can't have it both ways. We always talk about, we got to, re-establish our reputation in the transfer market. We're no pushovers, but pay the money and accept any offer that you get, please. That's what you need, please. And we'll take anything. You got to stand your ground. You got to walk away from deals. We'll go, no, this is our price. That's the price. That's it. This is how much we're willing to pay for a player. If you're not willing to help us, then we'll back down. That's also it. That's how it has to be. We bemoan everything, but we bemoan our reputation being shit in the market. Well, you got to re-establish it, don't you? That's what it needs to do. We got to re-establish it. So the McTominay to Napoli one looks like possibly sort of hanging a little bit by a thread, but we shall see. Just an interesting thing here from The Athletic this morning, saying the expectation, if Ten Hag's squad are all at peak fitness, is for Lisandro Martinez to start the left centre-back with Matthijs de Ligt on the right, especially once Euro returns to fitness and adapts to the Premier League, which we kind of already knew. I don't want to get too much into that because we kind of were talking about it in the preview. That's going to be coming up at midday today, Flex and myself, for the Brighton game. Sort of saying who's going to be playing. What's the defence going to be in the game on Saturday? And it's quite an interesting one, actually, because Erik ten Hag doesn't like to change things if things are working. If he thinks things are working and they're doing well, he doesn't like to change it. He's a big fan of continuity. But you would then also say you've got Liverpool next week. Wouldn't now be the perfect time to be like, right, De Ligt, you've had a full week of training, play with Martinez, get a bit of chemistry going, then you can be ready, or then this back four can be ready for Liverpool, get them going. Or does he go with Maguire again because Maguire played well? Is that also what he does, right? Because he doesn't like to change things. And it was funny after the game, or even during the game last Friday, because those that just genuinely, for whatever reason, don't like Harry Maguire were really easy to spot. Now, this is what's mad with the Maguire thing. This is not an advocate of him saying, 5-year contract, give him a new contract, Harry Maguire. He's got to be staying long term. Of course it's not. Harry Maguire, I don't think, has a long-term future at Manchester United. He's not going to go this transfer window. I would hope that he would go in the next transfer window. His time's done at Manchester United. And he's certainly, I don't think, the starting centre-back. If everyone's fit, he's fourth choice. So establish that, because apparently if you praise someone, that means you want them to sign a 10-year deal, which is mad. But like last week, you get at half time with 0-0, get Maguire off the pitch. Go, what? Get him off the pitch. Terrible. And you go, he's doing all right. He's doing fine, isn't he? Just get him off. Full time, you go, Harry Maguire played very well today. Does that mean you want him to stay for like 5 years? Why don't you give him the captain's armband back at the same time? What? What? It's like, no. What? I'm not sure what that really means, but yeah. But I would, if I was picking the team this weekend, I'd go with De Ligt and Martinez, because you'd want to build up some rapport, wouldn't you? You'd want to build up some chemistry. You'd want to build up some momentum, and then that's what you need going into the Liverpool game, of course. So, yeah, that's what I would go with. But the Maguire stuff was so weird last week, honestly, because how dare you praise him? You can't do that. How dare? No. What? So, okay. Well done, Maguire played well today. Okay, now 10-year contract. This is bullshit. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it's mad. Compost Smurf says, so we're going to wait on a catastrophe before starting. I retracted it now. That went well. Yeah. So indeed, but that's the preview. That's the preview stuff. We'll move that on. Right. So where are we at? We've got over 1,700 people watching, which is great. Let's see if we can get it to 750. There's less than 100 likes to go until 750. So. Yes, if you haven't, click the like button and be sure to subscribe as well whilst you're at it. Let's talk about a little bit about Jadon Sancho. There's not, too much on this, really. But Fabrice Hawkins, of course, credible journalist in France, has said that Jadon Sancho desires to join PSG. However, the French club have not made advancements with Manchester United for a deal. This is starting to feel like, right there, doesn't it? This is starting to feel like Jadon Sancho wants to move to PSG. PSG have a sort of fringe interest in possibly bringing him in, but they've got other priorities. And really, you're looking at the signings that they're making. Now it looks like they're going to get Lookman possibly in too. I don't know where he would actually even fit in to any of PSG's plans. And this is what I've been saying so much recently when it comes to, with Jadon Sancho, as it feels like every day you go one way or the other with him. You go, he's definitely going. Then time goes by, nothing really happens. You get stories like that, which is like, Jadon Sancho would like to go to PSG. And you go, okay, is there anything happening? Well, not really. So he might stay then, I guess. Who said it? I think it was The Athletic when they said it's as Flex enjoyed this. It's a live situation. It's a live situation with Jadon Sancho, which I think means, once again, catchphrase, anything can happen with that. And as we get closer and closer and closer to the deadline, maybe valuations, expectations get dropped. Maybe reality starts to set in as well with how much you're going to play or you're not going to play this season. And maybe you do see some offers get put in that hadn't even really been talked about or thought about before. And then suddenly you do get a last-minute offer from Juventus. Or suddenly you do get a last-minute offer from Borussia Dortmund, where it turns into like a loan with an obligation to buy. And you go, wow, where did that come from? That's what it feels like with Jadon Sancho now. It feels like at the moment, with 8 days left, nothing's really going to happen. But still stuff could. You know what I mean? Still stuff could. Still stuff might as well. And I know that the Athletic also said that they were like, with Chelsea, Chelsea they still could possibly put a bid in, or Chelsea could do something. Chelsea could do anything. Who even knows? I feel like they've got kind of bigger issues to kind of factor with. You know, they're trying to shift on a load of players, aren't they? Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell, even possibly like Tasazi, Chalobah. Like there's a lot. There's a lot with that they're dealing with at the moment. So yeah, I feel like with Sancho and what have you, that might be something that's sort of later on in the window. I think that might be something that happens, but yeah, we shall see. Big up the mods in the chat for keeping things going. What else? This is I think this sums up my point. Big up Matt, which is says flip flop said Maguire should start. He had an okay game. He wasn't prime Ramos. This is what I mean when we have to be careful when we get to agendas, because nobody was saying that he was. That's what you're hearing. When you praise someone for having a good game, this is the thing. You can give someone praise, but saying that they're the best thing since sliced bread, that never happened. You know what I mean? It's almost going back to the Ten Hag stuff last season when you criticised Eric, and I mean, so you want him to be sacked. You go, well, I didn't say that. Like, Harry Maguire played well against Fulham. Yeah, I mean, Saeed again. Harry Beckenbauer. Is that what you're saying? You go, no. No. He played well in the game. He got picked. He played well. Stopped the attack. He did okay. That's it. That's it. You know, that's all that it is. I would have De Ligt and Martinez start against Brighton. But for some reason, Harry Maguire is such sort of a triggering, such a triggering subject that, you go, oh, he played well today. Fuck you, you're a disgrace. Where's Kenny? Harry Maguire, he played quite well against Fulham. Good for him.
Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
You go, what? You go, you know exactly what you did.
Poor, and I mean poor.
Okay, all right. I bet you think Maguire should start against Brighton, don't you? You go, actually, I think De Ligt should start.
Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
I'm not even sure what's disgraceful. Now you go, oh.
Absolutely woeful. Absolutely woeful.
Yeah. It's mad. It is mad, isn't it? It's crazy. And you know what's also mad is before I even said about Maguire, I did the disclaimer, he shouldn't be here long term, he needs to go. Next season he'll probably go. And it doesn't matter. You might as well not do the disclaimer because it's not heard. It's like, it's literally like, it misses the ears of everyone until you just so he played well. What? You said he played well? Fuck you. He played well. Well, you think what, he's Bobby Moore? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Oh, you disgraceful. Honestly, where's Kenny again? You're
disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, it's nuts. And finally, a little bit on Facundo Pellistri. Because he has left. Yeah, he has left Manchester United. We had heard this one was building up the last few days. Manchester United confirmed it. Facundo Pellistri joined Panathinaikos on a permanent transfer. Some of the details of this deal you can see right there on the screen. He signed a 4-year deal with the Greek club. It's a £5.1 million initial fee. It's rising to a possible 6.8. Let's round it up to £7 million. Manchester United do have a buyback clause for the next 3 years, and there's a 45% sell-on fee. So Manchester United thinking that they are insured for the future. That's the plan. I mean, you kind of maybe hope that you would get a bit more of a fee, honestly. You would hope you'd maybe get a bit higher. I mean, the other day there was a suggestion, wasn't it, that it was going to be 10 million euros, which would be around 8 million quid. So see that, so what, initial 5 could possibly rise to like sort of 7 million pounds. Does feel a bit on the low side, but Manchester United certainly are protected, aren't they, as well, with the buyback clause, unless, he suddenly becomes a world beater. And also, if they sell him on for a big price too, it feels like, certainly, doesn't it, with some of those deals, it's like Man United are willing to accept the sort of lower fee initially, as long as they can get a big sell-on clause that they think in the future they can benefit on. Which, as a strategy, you're just not going to know until several years' time if that does pay off, isn't it? As for his time at United, Facundo's a weird one because I saw this again yesterday. I think we just do this. We are very sentimental with players and with fans. That we call for people to leave, and then when we leave, we don't like it. I mentioned this before with Wan-Bissaka. With Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's not good enough, and we leave. I tell you what, Facundo was our best right winger. We should have never got rid of him. We should have never, ever, ever got rid of him. Facundo Pellistri, did he get lots of opportunities? No, not really. Should he have got more opportunities? Possibly. But I think that, in all honesty, it's one of those ones, isn't it, where I don't know if he'd ever reach the heights that maybe one would expect of him at Manchester United, really. The thing that he needs now is to play. He's been on quite a few loan moves. None have really come to anything, to fruition. He's played in the Liga a couple of times, not really turned up trees. So eventually, Manchester United, we're talking about being sentimental. United can't wait around, for these kind of things. If you want to look at, what to do when it comes to a loan deal and impress people, look at Ahmed. Ahmed went to Sunderland and really impressed. And it came back and it still struggled to get into the team. And now he started to get game time. Although he might actually even be dropped at the weekend. It might be Garnacho that comes in for him. But, Manchester United, I'm not going to sit here and cry. We sold Facundo Pellistri. I mean, could we have got more money? Probably. And again, that goes back to reputation, really, doesn't it? If we had a stronger reputation, a bit like, when City sell a player that's never played before, they can get like 15 million quid because the guy's come from Man City. Whereas when it's United at the moment, they go, we'll give you something. We'll give you something. And also, it also goes to the situation where you're looking at what kind of clubs are coming in for him as well. No disrespect, but Panathinaikos coming in. Is that really his level? Is that his level? And look, if he does, and the positive thing is if he does develop into something that we didn't see, if it does develop into something that, or a player that we didn't see or anything like that, United will still benefit from it. We'll get 45% of the future fee, and if he's really great, we'll just get him back. We'll just get him back. So yeah, it's really not the transfer to sort of be crying about or anything like that, in my opinion. Again, this is when I say sometimes we don't know what we want, because we ask for things, we get them, then we don't like them. So a lot of these players, they got to go. A lot of these players just not good enough. Or when they come on, hey, they're not good enough. Sell them. It's a big error. Man United will regret that one. We'll regret it. And you go, well, I don't think we will. God, my goodness. Remember, so Hannibal's another one, isn't it? Hannibal's another one with, last season went out on loan to, was it Sevilla? Barely played. They had an option, didn't take it. For a period of time, it was like Hannibal's the great. I was beating the Hannibal drum. Got to get in the team. Sometimes in football, just young players, they got potential. Certain clubs don't work out. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good or not going to have a great career. It's not going to be for Manchester United. Look at Andreas Pereira. Andreas Pereira is regular for Fulham now, Premier League player. Didn't work out at Man United. Wouldn't have him back at Manchester United because we know that's the level. Not everyone that comes through is Kobe Mainoo or whoever, or sometimes you buy young players from abroad, come in, you think, I really hope they're going to work out. Sometimes they don't work out. And when they don't work out, we've said, with signings, 2 or 3 years, if it doesn't work, boom, then you got to go, at least United have made some, not a lot, but at least some money on him in the sense of, I know we paid more for him, but you get my point now. Because in previous times, we've probably just let his contract run out and gone a free. And that would have been a bit that would have been it. So, it's not the end in the world. And all goes towards the pot when it comes to transfers. Tempwer with the contribution, no message. Oh, here's one. Says, hi, Owen. Great show as always. I wanted to ask which app you guys use for your watch-along, displays, light-up news, etc., and morning shows. Thanks. It's all done by Magic. No, this is all done by OBS. And then graphics, you make your own graphics. That's what you got to do. Yeah. So, shockingly, you'll be surprised, but some prep does actually go into this show. You know, but you would think not, but sometimes maybe. So that's the latest Manchester United transfer news for you this morning. As a reminder, there is going to be a match preview that's coming out midday. It's going to be Brighton Man United, of course. Flex and myself are going to be discussing the build-up to that. Predicted news, team news, of course. We don't know any injuries or absences or anything like that. Press conference coming up later today. We'll talk about any things like that in the Full View coming up at 6 p.m. So be sure to join us. Of course, reminder, Full View now on Thursdays. Full Views on Thursdays and red carpets on Mondays. Of course, if there are games, you know, things get moved around. For instance, last week we didn't have an episode of the Trinity because the game was on Friday. So the football calendar does always dictate that kind of stuff, doesn't it? So, yes. But that'll be coming up later today. So big up to everyone. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Of course, if we get any more transfer news or anything like that, we shall let you know in any upcoming video. I'm out of here. Peace.